So Eddie Jones here. Welcome to the World Rugby presentation on unstructured rugby. I hope this presentation is useful to you. If you learn one thing from the presentation, it's good. If you don't, ask Peter Horn for your money back. So here we go. So there's 4 areas we want to cover in unstructured attack: the definition, the importance of it, the philosophy, and some ideas of how we practice it. The great thing about unstructured attack, it's the most varied part of the game. It's the most chaotic and unpredictable part of the game, and it's probably the area where you can make the most difference to your team. So definition of unstructured attack is any possession that originates from an unplanned situation. So it's the most unstable situation in the game. So it might be from a set piece turnover. It can be a turnover from a ruck. Any sort of kicking is generally unstructured. A handling area. Are there any other examples you can think of? And so the basis of all of those situations, it's chaotic because you don't know where the opposition's defence is going to be or how they were attacking. And therefore you get a situation to take advantage of their instability. Okay, so we're going to look at some videos examples of these now. Just some very simple ones. We use a few of England. So first one's from a set piece turnover. Line outs is an area where you can get a fair bit of turnover ball. England, we tend to look for more stability before we play quickly. We'd like to play a bit more quickly from that turnover, but our players like structure, so we try to play within a structured situation. From a ruck or phase turnover, again, it's a greater chance to attack. In this situation, we turn the ball over at the ruck. Again, we'd like to move the ball quicker into space, but because we're a team that likes stability, we tend to play from stability and then use a kicking game, which suits the mindset of our players. We get most of our unstructured possession from kicking, either contestable kick or long kicks. And again, we look to see how we can use the best talents of our players in this situation. So here we turn them around with kicking again. And the last one's from a handling area, where your defence can force attacking opportunities. Here we show some good sleight of hand and Itaje gets into space. So again, just some examples of how turnover ball occurs and how unstructured attack occurs. So I hope you've got a clear picture in your mind of what it is now. So the importance of unstructured attack is massive. For England, we're in Tier 1 tests, it's 60% of our possession. 33 of 55 possessions generally is from an unstructured source. And the 60% of that possession is your best attacking opportunities in the game. And therefore it's massively important, guys. One of the important things about unstructured attack, guys, is to have a philosophy. Your philosophy must suit your teams. You know, and I've just listed some of them there. You know, some teams look to strike early and avoid rucks. If you watch Japan in the last World Cup, probably a really good example of that, where whenever they got any turnover ball, they really tried to move the ball quickly to space and then avoid rucks. We've seen teams have 2 pass philosophies. We've seen teams who look for the back space first. We've seen teams like England who look to win the gain line first and then attack. Or some teams like to settle back into their formation and then attack. But the most important thing is to have some guidelines for your players to attack from. Don't just say attack, attack. You've got to give them some guidelines on how they should attack. And again, it's got to suit the strengths of your team. So team guidelines. So when you're working out your philosophy of how you want to attack, have a look at the strengths of your team. where does your advantage lay? If you've got a team that can move the ball quickly, you've got a great back three, play to that strength. If you're a more settled team like we are in England, then play to your strengths, get some stability back in the game, then attack from there. And the most important part of all of this is the practice. I see so many teams now when I go and watch them practice around the world where they're still practicing the majority of their game from set piece possession, whereas the majority of the game, as we've seen, 60% of the possession is from unstructured possession. So one of the two important parameters to look at are specificity and overlay. By specificity, I mean analyse the game, analyse the games that you play. Don't analyse Super Rugby games or Tier 1 tests, analyse the games you play and what are the most common episodes you get the ball. So, for instance, do you get the majority of your possession from kicks from a contestable kick or from long kicks? And make sure, therefore, in that week that you're playing that opposition, you practice those scenarios of how you get the kick. The second most important thing is if you want to improve in this area, you've got to overload it. So just like you go to the gym and lift weights, unless you keep lifting heavier, you don't get better at it. So how do you overload the practice of unstructured possession? You vary the time, space, and numbers. We have a weekly periodization of how we practice it. So on a Monday, we look to do more mental modelling of the key episodes. We might do some walkthroughs. Tuesday, we'll try to break it down into mini skills and then do it with real speed. No contact. And then Wednesday, we'll overload it with time and space. So for instance, against Wales in the last game of the Six Nations, we practiced the whole week of Wales having 16 in attack and us having 13 in defence, and then practicing once we turn the ball over how we'd attack against them. So we look to overload numbers, but make sure you're continually overloading that area of the game, and that's how you get benefit from it. Okay, so examples of training. So set piece, very simply, you can have a set piece where the attacking side throws in and then line out, use a second ball to replicate a turnover. Very easy. Ruck and phase turnover. Again, you can use a second ball, or you can use the Hurricanes game, which we'll have a look at in a minute, where we generally play 12 versus 12. So say the red 12 have 4 rucks to attack. If they don't score a try, then it's a turnover. So the blue 12 then attacks, but then 6 of the red team must retreat to the try line before they rejoin the defence line. So initially you've got 12 versus 6, which is a great way of educating the players to find space. And also it educates your defence to find their shape with less defenders. So it's a great game. I pinched it from the Hurricanes, I think. Kicking turnover, you can use a second ball. Handling area, you can use a second ball. Try to vary it as much as you can. You can vary where you use the second ball. You can use it at the source or use it away from the source. Use another cage with a second ball to replicate that unstructured, chaotic part of the game. The other game that we use a lot, here's the Hurricanes video. So you just see this. So turnover, 6 defenders have dropped back. So you got 12 versus 6. You can vary the space. So finding the space, and then the other 6 defenders have to come in and try to find it. So the defending team didn't do too well there, but the attacking team did well. It's a great fitness drill as well, as apart from being a great unstructured. So you can play that we play it in anywhere from 1 minute to 3 minutes, depending on what sort of physiological reaction we want to have. The Stormers game, we generally vary the numbers here. And what we try to do is replicate the speed of the game. So we have, it might start off with 8 versus 12 or 8 versus 8, depending on how we want to play. Again, we have 4 phases. The variation here is If the attacker gets to the shoulder of the defender, he can go on the ground and pop. If he goes into his chest, then he's got to go down and clean out the ball. And then as soon as they have 4 phases, they haven't scored a try, the ball goes straight to the blue side and then they attack. And what you're practicing here is reacting to the speed of the ball, reacting to the space in front of you. It's a great game for unstructured practice. Nothing too fantastically complex, very simple. It's a game our players keep on giving us feedback. If we don't do it during the week, they feel like they haven't practiced their unstructured work. So we've got a video of the Stormers, so we'll just have a look at that next. So here's the Stormers video. Here we're playing across the field. It's probably about 6 versus 6, backs and back rower. So again, great pop pass and leads to people running good support lines. Because again, if your philosophy is not to have rucks, you want to be practicing that unstructured play and support play, which is one area of the game I think is very poorly practiced now, is support, because everyone tends to play a organisational framework. Players are encouraged to go back into position rather than look for the support opportunity. So last point, specificity and overload is again, just reinforcing what we said. Make your unstructured as specific as you can to that game. If you're playing against, say, you might be playing against Georgia, where you're not going to get particularly a lot of kick return. You might get a lot of turnover at the breakdown. Then practice that during your week. If you're playing against a high kicking side, work out what sort of kick they're going to do and then try to practice that as much as you can during the week. Make sure you overload unstructured practice. I can't emphasize that strongly enough, because unless you overload the practice, you won't improve. So that's a quick summary of unstructured attack. Why do we practice it? Because it's probably 60% of your possession. Remember, it's a chaotic situation. So what you're trying to do is give the players guidelines, a framework. You can't tell them what to do. All you're trying to give them is a framework of how to do it, and make sure your practice is as specific as it can, and make sure you overload the practice. So I hope, guys, you've got some ideas there of how you can practice your unstructured attack. So I hope it's been worthwhile. Thanks very much. Cheers.